Hi, this is Chris with the Natural Progressive, and I have a special guest with me that I'm really excited about. Joshua Cameron is here to share his activism story and then talk a little bit about um, our voice. He is an anti war veteran, from what I understand, and he had a really interesting experience um, when he showed up at a Mia Love and Mitt Romney uh, campaign fundraiser event. And I will let Josh take it from here. Thanks, Josh.
Hey, thanks for having me, Chris. I really appreciate this opportunity. So yeah, I was a veteran, joined the Army. Well, I guess I am a veteran. Joined the Army in 1999, got out in 2003. I deployed to the Balkans because I've seen war up front. I'm pretty against war. I think most people who are honest with themselves typically are. It really confuses me when I see people who have been to war that are pro-war. But as far as the Mia Love Mitt Romney thing, so there was a rally called Mia Runs with Mitt. For those who love, was the former Congressional District 4 representative here in Utah. She's the first and only Black female GOP member. And so August 24th, there was a rally being held at Thanksgiving Point, and on Thanksgiving Point is a place. And so the show barn owns quite a bit of land, of which I wasn't quite familiar. So I drive down this little terrace area, park in their parking lot. I brought my American flag, which I usually do. Up to this point, whether it be being a delegate or going to political meetings and organizing events, or conventions, special elections, etc. I've gone to plenty of protests and rallies. I usually like to show with my American flag, because I think that while the American flag doesn't itself hold a lot of innate philosophical value, I think it's probably the biggest and strongest icon that we have. And unfortunately, many on the left only allow hateful right-wingers to own it and own its meaning. So it's important for me yes. So it's important for me to show up and represent the flag. And so I show up. My main point was, I'm the person for Our Voice USA. So what we do is we help people actually run for office, regular people, they get free tech. So the establishment basically has tech to allow them to canvass. And if you wanted to do it, Chris, say that you wanted to be involved, a lot of times they'll charge you hundreds to thousands of dollars per month in order to access their technology. Well, we created it, and we allow people to have it for free. And that way we can kind of do what we can to disrupt the system.
That's
so with
great.
that in mind, I wanted to figure out, yeah, right. So we see a lot of value in this. So with that in mind, I really wanted to go and interview about 10 or 20 people, figure out, what is it that brings people out to a Mia Love event? Because aside from just, I have an R next to my name, so I want to support this Republican, because Mia Love to me doesn't really say anything of interest or of value or really string things together intellectually. Seems very pseudo-intellectual. So I show up, get my American flag within about 2 or 3 of the grounds, up an hour before the event's even supposed to start. I was talking to my very first gentleman, interviewing him. He agreed to allow me to record. And about a minute and a half into talking to him, there's a cop that's perched 3 feet from me. And so as I'm talking to this guy, I've got audio, and you can start hearing me stumbling over my words, because I have this cop staring at me from 3 feet away. Well, so eventually I start talking to the cop, and just before I do, you can hear the cop, like he's pushing his little speaker,
Walkie-talkie
however
thingy.
he's speaking to, you're right, his little walkie-talkie thing. And he's like, I don't think this guy's going to be a problem. I assume that's me. And then as I'm talking to him, telling him why I'm there, look, spokesperson for organization, a charity, Our Voice USA. We want to help regular people run for office, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the guy I was interviewing says, well, hey, I have no problem with him being here. Tell me, look, you can't be here with your American flag. We think that you're a protester. It's like, wait a minute. I thought kneeling when the flag is around is protesting, not actually holding a flag. So like now I'm getting mixed messages. So I tell him,
Mhm.
look, I'm a combat veteran. It's important to me to have the flag. He's like, well, look, I don't think anyone have a problem with the flag. The American flag is one thing, but you just can't be out here because we think that you're a protester. Like, well, what does that mean? Nobody has a problem with me having the flag, and yet you're telling me I can't be on the property with a flag.
Yeah, that makes no
And so
sense.
this is where, yeah, it makes no sense. It's a right wing rally. Plus, now they're using the cop effectively as like their private security. Like, I mean, so they're using the taxes to tell a combat veteran to go to hell.
Mm.
Well, I eventually made my way into the rally. I even spoke to Mia Love. I put this is after I put my flag away into my car. And the funny thing about speaking to Mia Love is I was trying to get her to commit to having a town hall meeting. And since it's a rally inside of this building, they're playing music. Well, as she's stumbling and trying to find a time when she actually held a town hall in the past, she's like, have you been to one of the have you been to one of the earlier ones? What about the
And
teletown
so they're
halls?
rich
And as
donors, one
she's
of
like,
those?
right, exactly. And so, for those who aren't familiar with what she does, she usually has one during business hours. She'll invite people about a day before, so nobody really has the opportunity for grassroots to get out there. They'll contact business leaders, and so basically, like you said, donors.
Mm.
And as she's fumbling for an answer, Eye of the Tiger cues up and starts playing. So I thought that was pretty awesome.
That is pretty crazy.
So right? Yeah, perfect timing. So eventually, things kick off, and you're here you're here in Utah, so
Mhm,
you are probably familiar with our Lieutenant Governor Spencer Cox,
mhm.
and so he starts the whole
Yes.
thing off, and he's like, "Hey guys, we're here to support Mia Love, and she's here to save babies."
And she has an R
And so that
behind her
triggered me a
name.
bit.
She's
You're
a
right, exactly. She's got an R behind her name. She, as long as you're, inside of a woman's belt, to say everything that happens to you. So then I yell out, "So let's do it with contraceptives!" Woo!
Yay!
Right, and so
I
likely
like that.
that made him a little mad at me, and, well, once he was done talking, he queued up some video, and I'm playing this in my head and just, like, it's like, I get this, and I get that this is a big part of their shtick, but it really annoys the shit out of me. When I was in the Army, not only was I a combat medic, but often, when I was in the Balkans, we'd actually go to schools and go to hospitals, and we'd provide free medical aid to small hamlets and towns that have been devastated by war. Often these are little school-aged children. When I was in Iraq and Kuwait and Iraq, we actually had civilians who were caught in crossfire and who were victims of war come to our hospital that we take care of. So arguably, I've actually cared for babies, right? And so here's this asshole saying she's here to save babies. Like, I've been there, motherfucker.
Oh, they
And
only wanna
so
save them
I'm mad.
till they exit the womb. After that, they could care less. You know? That's
Sure, right?
that's the
Yep.
yeah. Go ahead, sorry for the
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I have some ideas behind why I think that is, but ultimately, I eventually started yelling out, save babies from cages, reunite families, and abolish ICE. And so this at this point, like I said, August 24th, this is before any reports have come out that any children have died. And then since then, there's at least two casualties.
Mhm,
They've been locking up kids in ice boxes. They purposely make it to where if there are kids there with family, they can't hug each other. There's no physical contact, no interaction, making it as terrible and as horrible as they can possibly make it. And
right.
so, here we are enacting being terrorists while we think that we're some bastion against terrorism. And well, they kicked me out. Had some guy approach me, "Hey, you got to go." I was like, "What do you mean I got to go? I didn't even get a warning. I got to go." And so I've got audio of this interaction as well. I was
Mhm,
like, "Well, I'd prefer not to. I'd like to. This is my representative. I think this is a First Amendment issue." Eventually, they grab me by the arm and they start. Another guy's pushing my back and they force me out. But from the time they said you got to go, within 60 seconds, I was outside of the doors of the venue. The cop who originally told me they thought I was a protester, it was just like, dude, I told you they could ask you to go. And almost immediately after that, private security follow up and say, we want to file criminal trespassing charges against him. And the cop turns around, knowing full well I had a ticket to get in, says, "Oh, you
Mhm.
want to file criminal trespassing?" Yes. And so they take me over to the cop car. They cite me for criminal trespassing. And so it's like, well, wait a minute, like we don't have Schrodinger's laws. If you're familiar with Erwin Schrodinger, he tried to describe the superpositioning of quantum particles, where they can be the state of a wave or a particle. Well, the point is that the electron effectively can be in two places at once. Well, I'm not an electron. I'm not a quantum
Mhm.
particle, so I can't be illegally while also legally on the grounds at the same time.
Right, you bought a
We don't have
ticket.
Schrodinger's law.
You bought a
Yes,
ticket,
right. So I had a
so
ticket. Right, so we had a ticket to get in, um, and so I fought the charges. I hired a lawyer. They asked me to plea, and they said that if I plea as a disorderly conduct, then they would drop the criminal trespassing charges. And so I work for the University of Utah, which
right.
means that if I have a criminal record, like I can't work there. So I would lose my job. Criminal
Mhm.
trespassing runs the risk of 6 months in jail, which means that my house would likely foreclose on. I would, so then I would be part of this system, potentially be homeless, fuck
Mhm.
my wife, fuck my kid,
It
right?
would
We'd be
destroy
totally
your
screwed.
life. It would
Um,
totally destroy your
right,
life, yeah.
exactly. Totally. And then if I do disorderly to still have a criminal record. It's no longer a Class B misdemeanor. It's now a Class C. Exactly sure how the University of Utah looks at that, but it still runs the risk of jail time. And so I requested a jury trial. Right, my rights to do
Right.
so.
I remember you
And
doing that, yeah.
so my lawyer contacts them back and tells them that we want a jury trial, and we show up to the pre-trial February 2nd of this year, and they abeyance again. And if I pled for disorderly conduct, then they would drop it to an infraction. And so I said, so now it's not running the risk of a criminal record, but it would still be a fee for me. And if I can't
Right.
pay that fee, well then I run the risk of jail time again. And so I tell them no, because now I realize that the more that they're trying to get me to plea, like the more I feel like they understand they're on shaky ground.
Mhm.
And so I tell them no. We request a trial date, which was set for 20 days later, which was January 22nd of again this year. And then we show up. I had two people show up to support me there, and literally 10 minutes before trial started, they dropped charges. 10 minutes. So they wasted
Wow.
my time. Yeah, they wasted my time. It cost me $3,000 to hire a lawyer. Um, I they wasted the judge's time. They wasted the bailiff's time. They wasted my supporters' time. They wasted everyone's time, because at this point they just expect that you are so worried about what you have to lose that you will just go ahead and plea, and you'll pay out some fines, so at least the city can get some money. And this is how we treat poor people in this country,
Oh,
and that's
yeah, that's
fucking
a
shitty.
big problem, um, that's how they get you into the system and the private prisons and all that, but they make money off of that, and they keep you down. They don't want you to protest, so they will do everything they can, um, make you an example so that you don't protest. The state is especially bad at keeping protesters down. They there's a hatred of protesters here. They would rather run them down with their car, and they want that to be legal. I've actually heard that argument. So, yeah, sorry, I am intruding again.
Oh, no, you're fine. I unfortunately can occupy space with just the sound of my voice, and like a steam train, once I get going, well, it's kind of hard
Mhm.
to stop. So definitely interject if you have something to say.
Okay.
But to your point about it being legal, they want it to be legal to run people over. That was actually a law that was submitted and it didn't pass. But there's actually lawmakers in North
Thank
Dakota,
goodness.
while Standing Rock was happening, they try to pass a law
Yeah.
to make it legal to run over protesters.
Yeah,
They
I
also did
seen
that in
that,
North
yeah.
Carolina.
Mhm.
Yeah, again, it didn't pass, but yeah, Utah is right there, and we have absolute proto-fascism. So, not only was it proto-fascism in that you speak against the Fuhrer and you speak against the ways here, then we're going to have you arrested and we're going to run you through the system, take all of your money, potentially try to ruin your life for daring stand up.
Mhm.
But also, we see in this country, you're obviously big on environmentalism. So Bears Ears goes on. Ryan Zinke shows up. There's
Mhm.
Cassandra Begay, who's part of Pandos, peaceful activist for Native American dialogue, and can't remember what the S stands for. But anyway, so she showed up to talk to him, and he basically put his hand like right in her face, telling her to shut the fuck up. And so she wanted to find out, why aren't you talking to the tribes about this? Well,
Mhm.
they claimed in and out, in and out. This is not about oil. This is not about oil. Well, come to find out, holy
It's
shit!
about oil.
Imagine that. It's
Duh.
about oil, and it's about uranium and coal
Oh yeah,
and
you're here in Utah. You've seen like on KSL and all the news. They kept saying there's no uranium, there's no oil out in Bears Ears and all that. Locally, they were saying that right up until after they got the monuments reduced, and then suddenly, yeah, there's oil, there's uranium. All these leases are being opened up
yep,
in order for them to mine it, and then they're saying, oh, it's going to be so good for the rural economy, and it's going to suck when it kills
right,
their kids. So.
yep,
Uh, do you want me to read a couple of the comments? Because
yeah,
we've got live
please,
viewers. So I think that's kind of fun
sweet,
for
yeah,
you.
yeah. Go ahead and read the comments.
Okay, we have
I don't
Osama
see
number
them.
5, and we have Pat Hacker on with us, which is awesome. Oh, and we have Jeffrey Peterson. Hi, guys. Um,
Hello.
gosh, Travers Snow, I don't know how to pronounce. But anyway, I wanted to read Osama's comment to protect and serve the corporations and corrupt politicians, and everyone can have a teaser up their ass.
Yeah, legit. Like, that's effectively how they see it. Like, "Oh, wait, I got the money, I've got the power, you can go fuck yourself. And as long as you agree with me, then we can be friends. But if you
Mhm.
disagree, well, then we're gonna go ahead and have you arrested and run you through the system."
That being said, I just am curious, you being a vet and all, what do you think about the kneeling protests with the national anthem? What's your personal opinion on that?
I mean, it's speech, right? So,
Mhm.
he's not grabbing his crotch, he's not running out onto the field and, helicoptering, waving his wiener at everyone. Like, I don't
No.
understand.
It's
w
not
w
disruptive at all. It's about the
it's
most
not like.
peaceful, and it's respective. Since when is it not peaceful and respectful to kneel? I mean, that's
So
the ultimate
Colin
reverence.
Kaepernick actually used to sit on the bench. Like, he
Mhm.
sat on the bench, and there was
And
actually a
they
special
talked to a
forces soldier that
SEAL.
reached out to him.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
or maybe something like that. He
and
talked
he
to
told
find
him,
out
like, "Look,
how to do it.
kneeling is what we do to our fallen brethren, and it's what we do when we pray. It's one of the most respectful actions that we can do, so have you thought about kneeling?" So, "Okay, great, that's a wonderful point, and thank you." So we actually took feedback, and then he could, and people lost their minds. And
Mhm.
yeah, so I absolutely, am hands down in favor of Colin Kaepernick, because I don't need you to like my views or my points. I don't need you to agree with Colin Kaepernick's views or Colin Kaepernick's point, but I need you to agree with the fact that we both have the right to say what we say, right?
Right.
Neither of us were threatening people. Neither of us are making are feel like they're at harm. We're just making them clutch their pearls in offense officialities, and
Right.
and therein lies the problem.
Right. Okay.
For those in Utah, and something that you may find humor in, I was able to yell in Representative Noel's face, to his face, actually in a committee hearing last year. And so it
Oh,
was
wow.
about Bears Ears and Grand Staircase Escalante being downsized
Mhm.
on Grand Staircase. And that's actually where the uranium mining would. And so I yelled in his face that, and it made me feel a little bit good about myself, because
I'm
this is
proud of
again
you.
a guy who says it's not about. Yeah, it's not about. This isn't about oil. This isn't about coal or uranium. This is about states' rights, and yeah, pretty
The state
unfortunate.
having control, they know how to protect it better than everybody else. No, they know how to rape it better than anyone else. That's the thing. And I've
Right.
done lots of reporting on that issue with Graham Elwood and on Uphill Media. But yeah, we probably don't need to go down that road. I guess I could talk for hours on that. But I was just did you want to transition to our voice and talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, let's do that. One, Graham's a fantastic guy. I
Yes, he
really
is.
like
He's
that guy. I
awesome.
like what he stands for. He's had me on his show twice and given me the opportunity to do what you're doing now and kind of help me share my story, but also why I think it's important. There are people like me who feel compelled, like they feel compelled to disobey the given narrative and to stand
Mhm,
up. Well, this is where Our Voice USA comes in, and so if you go to Our Voice USA, that's our website. We now have an app. So what we have is that we used to have what was called the Our Voice USA app, and it still is, but it's now. And what Our Voice USA did is it allowed anyone to run for office, but it was meant more for kind of a municipal run or a state legislature, a little bit smaller campaign, maybe. And now Hello Voter, it's something that is where you could actually have a statewide, whether you run for U.S. Senate or U.S. House, or you can even run for president if you wanted to. And what's great about this is the establishment. We've gotten feedback saying, "Well, you guys created this for free, so anyone can use it. What prevents the establishment from hijacking that?" And that's a fair. But the point is, they already have this technology.
mhm.
And if you want access to that to hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in order to access it.
So
So
you're
we
leveling the
created it
playing
so
field, basically.
exactly. Exactly. So then hopefully we can crowdsource ideas and get regular people from all political walks. Like the idea that if we just elect enough Democrats, everything will fix itself is absurd. So it takes everyone, whether you be libertarian, Republican, Democrat, independent, Green Party, whatever, a People's Party, Poor People's Campaign. We need all voices to stand up. That's why it's called Our Voice, not Democratic Voice or Republican Voice.
Right.
And so what this does is it also decentralizes data. And I don't know if you know how Nation Builder works, but the data that the major parties get, what it does is it goes through and it looks to see who's voted in the last X amount of elections, who they voted for, Republican or Democrat, um, and it basically gives them a score. And it says, okay, so this person's 70% likely to vote for a Democrat. And like that's all fine and dandy if you're Kamala Harris and the only thing that you care about is what membership card that you
Mhm.
carry. But we're here like looking for policy. Like I don't care if you're a Republican if you have the right policy, as long as you have the right
Me too.
policy.
Yeah. I don't
And
care what letter you have behind your name. It doesn't matter to me at
yeah,
all.
legit. And so what we do is this tech that the establishment has, you can actually upload data. So if you know of addresses that you want to canvas, you can upload that to your server, to the app. You can cut turf for people to go out and canvas, so they can actually see specific pins that you want them to go canvas. They can update the map from the front end on their phone. That way, they can say this person's not interested, this person's really interested. But you can actually go ahead and create one and make it policy based, not what party you're going to vote for, but what policy. What do you think about the Green New Deal? What do you think about cleaning up our air? Where here in Utah we have China level air pollution,
Mhm.
and you know uh, what do you think of whether Alexandria Ocasio Cortez mentioned recently high speed rail? I think it's a wonderful idea. I would love to
It's
get
better
high
than the
speed rail.
airplanes.
Well,
Airplanes are a huge
less
cause of
radiation in your
pollution.
body. Yeah, huge cause of pollution, plus less radiation in your body. There's much that can be done, and this is a great way to decentralize data. Whatever you canvas for and whatever data you collect is yours. You literally can do whatever you want with it. And when you have people onto your campaign, they can upload data to you, but they don't actually get to share that data with anyone else. If they
Mm.
want to be able to collect data to share with others, so then they can create their own campaign. So then you can, let's say Nick Brana has a people's camp, right? The idea of a people's campaign. And if there are people out there who identify with that and want to actually build a third party, you could literally create your campaign, call it, Joe Schmo for a people's campaign, and then start carving out turf for people to canvas. Or whenever you bring on a new a new volunteer, a new canvasser, you can actually auto turf. And what that will do is it'll create about a radius of 1 kilometer around their address. Just have them go and ping their neighbors. whatever information you collect, again, you own. And if you actually want to help a people's campaign, then you can choose to share that with Nick Brana. Say, hey, here's some information. Here's actual policy data that I've collected area. And so this gives you a competitive advantage to be able to build not just data, but actual policy data, right? Because again, the establishment's based off of what party you're going to vote for, not what policy. And any sort of policy ideas, they're getting off of landlines, where you're getting it from the ground level, actually talking to people. So it's far more and much more accurate, because you're actually
That
talking to people who likely have much more to lose when it comes to climate change, because chances are the average person who has a landline is probably somebody who's not going to be around much longer, because they're
right,
probably
right.
pretty old.
Okay, that sounds great. Okay, I really think that sounds great. But do you think that we have safe, secure elections that can't be tampered with in this state, in this country? Just out of curiosity. I mean, until we get that nailed down, um, I'm afraid that nothing much will change, even if you get the people, the smaller people that understand what the real needs are of the average person. If you can't count on your vote counting, um, it it kind of makes people uh, weary about voting at all, even if they share your same concerns on policy. For instance,
So
here in my county, Mitt Romney is who we had to vote for. Um, Anyone who I in my circle that voted Republican, they got 2 ballots in the mail. We'd had mail-in ballots, and well, you know that. But
mhm.
they got 2. The people who were registered as Democrat got none, and the ones that were registered as um, unaffiliated got 1 ballot. So it's kind of really odd what's going on. And I don't trust Mitt Romney. He's already, he's affiliated with, or was at least, with Diebold voting machines that were highly questionable, to say the least. So I don't know. What do you think about that? Sorry to hijack, but
No, that's a really fair point. So the thing is yes, it is daunting, and yes, it is incredibly disconcerting seeing the lack of election integrity. But the thing is, to disengage just gives them the win, and
right.
so they have to cheat. They have to cheat already, and the reason why they have to cheat is because they don't have real ideas. So the more people that engage, the harder it is for them to cheat. The more people that are aware and that are advertising the cheating, the harder it is for them to cheat. And the
Mhm.
more that we'll actually build a precedent and be able to actually get a lawsuit on the books. And things always get worse before they get better. If you're in an airplane and it starts taking a nosedive, you realize that it's nosediving, and then by the time you can actually get to the cockpit, like, you've already dropped tens of thousands of feet, and hopefully you have the ability to then pull up and actually level the plane. Things always get worse before they get better, and the answer, again, regardless of what political party you're affiliated with, the answer is always more engaged. The less you're engaged, the more that they're able to just hoodwink and do this dog and pony show, pretend like they actually give a shit about voters. But the more voters engage and actually demand and show up and ask questions at town halls and expose them through whether it be independent media sources, so then we can actually inform voters even more. We've got drone technology through the ass. We got lots of very economic. I think Costco was selling some drones for like $40. We can have people who have drones and can live stream. They can follow these trucks that are full of the
The
ballots
ballot.
waiting to be counted. Just to make sure, like in Florida, where Tim Canova uh, was was running. There were people, like, I think the rules that they have in place is that when the boxes full of ballots are go be counted, they have to be taken in a car with 2 people. Well,
Yeah, and that
often there
didn't
was only one
happen.
person.
But what happened with
Yeah,
that?
it didn't happen at all.
Nothing happened. I mean, the people did that. They loaded all these ballots on a truck, and no one. There was no accountability. There wasn't the 2 people per box of ballots, or per car with ballots. There was only one person. There's no accountability there. Um, and with the lawsuits filed and everything, he didn't get anywhere, and that's the sad part. But I think we need to do all of the above, as far as um, definitely getting out there trying to get people elected, but at the same time, we do need to keep up the activism. Um, and I don't care what they say in Utah. You still get out there in the streets and you disrupt. It has a
Right.
bad taste in people's mouths here. The right wingers don't like to see it, but who cares? You know, we we need to get
Right.
people out there and piss them off. But the police are going to be hard on it and everything, and probably not treat the protesters very well. We haven't had too big of a problem with them, except for with you. But the big protest, I haven't seen a lot of people being arrested if they're peaceful. Have you here, other than what they did to you?
I there was a group of people who got arrested because I want to say they chained themselves up to ICE headquarters, at Decker Lake in West Valley, and so they chained themselves up there, and then they got arrested, and so that way. They wanted to make a statement because ICE unfortunately is acting like the Gestapo.
Mm-hmm.
They they often, like, I've seen reports where they actually get American soldiers, or American veterans rather, and they nearly deport them. They detain them, nearly deport them, just to find out, oh, my bad, you were brown. I just kind of assumed that you weren't. I
You're
mean,
illegal.
it's insane. It's
Being in
insane.
this state and
Yeah,
all,
the right.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so, coming back to the election integrity, also why it's so important to be involved in local elections. Your county clerk is an incredibly important position. This is somebody who's in charge of making sure, especially here in Utah, when we mail out ballots, this is who's in charge of that. Make sure that
Mm.
that actually happens. If you have somebody who just doesn't give a shit about democracy and only gives a shit about their team, and only gives a shit about their membership card, well, of course, Democrats aren't going to get their ballots, and independents may or may not, but Republicans absolutely will. If you've got a Republican county clerk in there who it plays team politics.
Mm.
And so, mayor, county clerk, surveyor, these are very important positions
Yeah,
to
they are.
fill. And that's what's great about the Our Voice USA app, now Hello Voter, is that you can actually get connected with all of your representatives from municipal on up to, US Senate. So you actually see who these people are. And that's part of the problem, is that it's so mystifying getting involved. What is it? What are these positions even called? Who's even in these positions? And what we're working on is getting their Twitter handles added, and their emails. So then you can have people from the touch of a button. The more that we can reach out and the more that we can engage, the more that we have the ability to put our hands on the levers of power and actually change things for the good. Because unless we get involved, they're going to keep on with the same old, and they're happy with the status quo. And I'm not. I don't know. I don't know
Um,
many regular everyday Americans who are. And if you're not happy with the status quo, what are you doing to disrupt it?
exactly, exactly. And I know a lot of Utahns that aren't really happy with the status quo, but yet they still vote the same way every single time. And look what happens with our initiatives that the Medicaid expansion and the medical marijuana that we voted on. They just discounted everything that the voters voted for. And yeah, so you need to vote those people out. But do you think Utahns will vote those people out that did that to us? I mean, those were very
Well,
popular referendums.
so this is where things get a little complicated, because it's really easy to use the language of vote them out, but in our political system, we don't have a vote of no confidence. So there's no literal vote them out in to displace them, and that's what we at Our Voice USA are trying to do, is get people to actually challenge these corrupt officials that only care about special interests and not about the population. Because again, you can't vote them out. You can't say, hey, I have no confidence in you, get the fuck out. You have to vote somebody in. And if there's nobody worth a crap uh, running for office to get them out, or if you have no ability to get in touch with who these people are, or be aware of running, then same way. Because if you only have one option, you're probably going to take that one option. But if
Right.
there actually are other options, you might be willing to take that Pepsi challenge and give and listen to somebody who's of the people and actually cares. And the great thing right now is that Rocky Anderson is actually suing the legislature over Prop 2.
Yeah, yeah, I
Chances
know.
are there's going to be a lawsuit for Prop 3 as well. But for those who don't know, Rocky Anderson was a former mayor of Salt Lake City who's now I think a civil rights attorney, and he's so Proposition 2 was his argument there was, and you might know more about it than me, but it was something along the lines of it was so bastardized that it's not enough reminiscent of the original proposition, and
Right.
that and the way that they change that it actually goes against what's in our Constitution. That any sort of proposition, if it is to be altered, it still has to resemble the original proposition
Right.
enough, or else it's unconstitutional, and
Yeah,
that's
they have
yeah,
the
and
right
that's
to
the problem
alter
there.
any referendums in our Constitution, but they have to sort of resemble what the people voted for and resemble
Yep,
their will, which that one absolutely did not. When it reduced the amount of facilities to buy it, they put it all through the health department. The grow your own is gone.
yep,
They cut down the qualifying conditions by a lot, like um, even chronic pain, you have to go through all the standard drugs first before you get to try it. Um, yeah, there was so many things that were messed up about Prop Two. So that's another story. But did you want to open up for questions with our lovely chatters? You
yeah,
want to?
yeah. Please, yeah. If
Anyone
there's
have
people
any
who
questions?
have questions, I'd love to answer them,
Okay,
or
guys,
at least
because I
take a
couldn't
stab
keep
at them.
track of all your comments, if you want to say anything or ask Josh some questions, please do so now. So maybe we can, uh, yeah, Rocky Anderson was a presidential candidate too. And yeah, I supported him as well. Um,
That's right. I forgot about that.
yeah, yeah, he was great. I wish he would have, of course, he wouldn't win the primary, but yeah, I like Rocky Anderson. Okay. Jill Stein
So
treated him
another thing that I
shabbily.
was trying to do with with my the Mitt Romney and Mia Love in getting arrested with the American flag is I nearly check all the boxes of identity politics that Republicans fall over themselves for. I'm a
Mhm.
former over the road truck driver. I've worked for Halliburton up in Vernal, Utah. I've worked my first job outside of the army was at a factory. I'm a freaking combat veteran, and so I check a lot of these boxes. Now I work in pediatric medical research, up at the
Oh,
University of
nice.
Utah. Yeah, and so it's important for me to use and leverage some of that to expose these people, and hopefully because ultimately, if I were yelling out at this event as, let's say, I was a black man, chances are I'd be much backed in, and much more likely, rather than just them arresting me then letting me go, chances are they'd actually arrest me and take me to jail, and
Mhm.
fuck you. So
Oh, yeah.
I am insulated by certain things, and so I want to be
Your
able to
white
use that for good.
privilege. You have your white privilege,
Yeah,
so
I mean,
yeah.
and yeah, I was able to put a few people in their places who denied the idea of white privilege. I was at the Parkland students. Remember when they came through Utah? They
Oh,
came and
man,
spoke at
yeah.
the Sandy Expo Center.
And it
So that
was
was
so terrible.
uh,
Those un-American children speaking out, they need to know their place. Oh, all the things Utah people said. That was so
yep,
ridiculous.
yep.
I could
So
not
if you
believe
look
it.
at Joshua Cameron and the Parkland, or Joshua Cameron, Salt Lake, eventually, like you'll see the pictures of me in the Trib where I showed up again with my American flag, and I was protesting the counter protesters. So
Good
the
for
NRA
you.
showed up. Yeah, well, and they were like, there's no such thing as white privilege. I said, well, actually, there is. Let me tell you about it a little bit. When I was 15, true story. I didn't have the best childhood. I decided that I wanted to drink beer, and I had no ability to get beer as a 15-year-old, and I looked like I was 12 when I was 15 to boot. A friend
Baby
of mine,
face.
like we actually went, yeah, we went to a convenience store, picked up two 12 packs of warm Natty Light. I do not recommend drinking warm Natty Light.
No, no,
Each
no, no.
picked up two 12 packs of warm Natty Light and just ran. Well, eventually we got caught, and I went to youth services, went to counseling. When it was my day in court, my mom stood up to the judge and said, well, hey, Your Honor, youth services, he's been to counseling. So they called it time served. Go any sort of juvenile detention. I didn't have any other fine to pay. Time served. if I were black, chances are that wouldn't happen. So
Or
I
if
actually
you're
shared that
brown,
story with
don't forget
people
the
who said there's no such thing
Hispanics.
as white privilege. Yep. And so again, it's important for me to share these stories so they are aware, like, just because you're white doesn't mean that your life is easy. It just means that your life isn't necessarily harder because of the color of your skin.
Right. No, I agree 100%. Let's see. So there was two more comments after that. Jill Stein treated um, Rocky Anderson shabbily. That's when I started rethinking the Green Party. Packer. And I think Rocky ended up running on the Justice Party ticket. Did he? I don't. I know he was on my ballot. That's all I know. So
I am not certain.
I don't recall. That was too long ago. That
So,
feels like a lifetime ago. 2016 election seems like forever ago. But yeah, uh, I
yeah,
like Rocky
it's pretty
Anderson.
incredible.
He's been a great activist since he's left the mayoral office. Did you catch his big
Um
debate with Sean Hannity right after
oh no, really? Oh, I
he
bet it
did
was
a?
great.
Oh, it was awesome, and I'm like, yeah, Sean Hannity. He just talks about nothing. He brings up no good points. He just triggers people in their right wing bullcrap and doesn't bring any good points. I don't know. So you did see it, or did you just hear about it?
No, I didn't. I'll have to look that up and
Yeah,
watch
maybe
it.
it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah, he did a great job arguing against Sean Hannity. It was a big event where Sean Hannity came to Utah and argued with him. I'm pretty sure it was in Utah,
Uh,
but it was good. It was really good.
uh, Sean Hannity. The people who defend Sean Hannity really bum me out because they
Me
really
too.
just engage in whataboutism. You know, when
Hmm.
you talk about it, brings up like, well, what about Hillary Clinton? It's like, I also think Hillary Clinton's a shitbag. So like, what about
Yeah.
her?
So
Like,
what about
I don't
that?
get
What
how that's
about
even an
Obama?
argument.
Obama
Yeah,
was a shitbag too.
yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, what about in history? Like, yeah, let's talk about that. And then let's quit with the whataboutism and let's actually get to the point of, let's get some policy, not just what about that guy? What about that lady? What about a transgender bathroom?
What about
And
socialism?
yeah,
Socialism and communism.
yeah,
Socialism leads to communism. We can't have that. We can't help our people in any way, shape, or form. It's just
you're right.
un-American. Pull yourself up by your straps, you 5-year-old child. What's wrong with you?
Bootstrap. Oh, we cross both ankles, and it's
Mm,
yeah, it's insanity.
yep.
And democratic socialism will lead to fascism or whatever. It's like, I'm pretty sure it leads to Finland, the happiest country on earth with the highest
Yeah.
education. Yeah,
Yeah. The
yeah,
happiest
I
countries
think I'm okay
on
with
the
that.
planet. I would rather
Yeah,
be happy than
let's go
have
ahead.
pockets full of money. And I'd rather see the people around me
Yeah,
not starving, not homeless, not engaged in
right.
war. That's what I would like. That's the utopia. And there's this thing where, okay, if you're a socialist, then you're stuck at this level and you can't do anything. And none of those countries are pure socialist. And the question I like to ask um, the right wingers that say, you know, when has socialism, a pure socialist country, ever worked? There hasn't been, but there also hasn't been a pure capitalistic country that has worked and been successful. So ask them to name one purely capitalistic country that has worked and been successful, because there isn't one. So they can just
Know a whole
stick
lot of
it.
people who are asking for a pure socialist country, like
No, there
democratic
aren't, but
socialism.
they think they are.
Yeah, democratic socialism harnesses a lot of the power of capitalism in that one of the great things about capitalism is it really does invite entrepreneurs to who can see a vacuum in society and fill it with a good or service, and they can get vastly rewarded. The problem
Yeah.
is that the people who get vastly rewarded rely on a workforce in order to become successful, and then they start preying upon that workforce instead of
Uh-huh.
bringing that workforce up with them. And
Yeah,
therein lies the biggest problem. And
they
that's why
don't
capitalism
uplift.
needs a certain amount of restraint.
Yeah, yeah. The capitalism needs regulations, which they don't have on the large companies, but the smaller companies get sucked into more regulations. So there isn't any competition for the larger ones. That they can just eat them up, or they don't even have
Of
an
course, yeah,
opportunity.
we're
New
on the top,
people,
baby. We don't want you coming up and challenging us.
right? and we're too busy working, earning a living, and having to be tied to a job because of our health insurance or
Yep.
any other thing, just to earn a living, maybe working two jobs just to survive. You don't have time to go out and start a new business, and make a living a lot of times. I mean, some lucky people are, but it's really hard. It's really difficult. They've made it super hard on the little guy and to keep them down and to rise up the powerful and keep them powerful. And it's by design. It's absolutely by design.
Of course, it's by design. Yeah, wages have stagnated since 1978. The buying power of the dollar has gone down. So not only your buying power is actually down. Cost of college has risen 1,000%. I think the average rent here in Utah in the last 10 years has gone up between 2 and 4, which is insane. A one bedroom apartment is not $800 or $900. That's insanity.
Mm. It
Like,
is. When
and
oh,
so, but
I could
again,
find a,
none of this will change unless we actually challenge the system.
yeah. When I was 18, my first apartment cost $350 a month. My first apartment. I mean, can you imagine getting that now? I mean, that was in '89. That's not
Yeah,
that long ago. And now you can't get a studio apartment for $800. So, I mean,
no,
I haven't
yeah.
seen one. And I have my kids living
My
with me. They pay a little bit of rent so they can stay here, and my ex has the other kids, so our kids are living with us. That's the way it is. They're all in their 20s and living with their parents. That's what you get.
and we make people feel ashamed because we talk about American exceptionalism. If only you
Mhm,
work hard. No, it's not a rigged system. You're just not working hard enough. And then you have this cognitive dissonance where you realize that you're working as hard as you can,
mhm,
and more so than many. Come to find out that uh, people like Ivanka Trump, they literally don't work for their money. Reports now show that the
right.
massively wealthy inherit their wealth. This is and Fred Trump apparently robbed the American people of about $500 million in taxes by
Wow.
just by creating shell corporations and Betsy DeVos, our labor secretary. So this is what, or not labor, but our education
Oh, yeah.
secretary. What's crazy about her is that did you hear the story about her yacht a while ago where
Yes.
somebody unmoored it? And so somebody
Yeah.
unmoored it, and this
And
poor
she's
yacht
crying.
was by itself, right? And so it's a $40 million yacht that's registered in the Cayman Islands,
Wasn't it
and
like
so
her
she's
second
proudly
one or something?
flying.
It was like, "My
I think she's
second
got like 8 of
yacht."
them. I think her family's got
Oh,
8.
really? Yeah,
Well, and
that's great.
so, it's registered in the Cayman Islands, and, people don't talk about, well, how come she's so embarrassed to fly the American flag? I don't hear that. I don't see the American flag on her yacht. Well, it's registered in the Cayman Islands, $40 million yacht, and since it's moored in Ohio, it actually robs the people of Ohio of about $2 million a year. Well, then also come to find out, uh, ICE, some of the children that they've been detaining on the southern border, well, they're actually funneling them through a Christian organization for adoption. And guess who that's tied to? Oh my gosh, Betsy fucking DeVos.
That doesn't
This
shock
is
me
all a
in the
shell game on purpose.
least. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
they're all
And
making
so
money off
one
of
of the
us.
things that I like most about Donald Trump is as gross as he is near off of all this. So we can actually see the puppet masters that normally hide behind the scenes. And until we know who they are, we have no ability to affect what they do.
Mhm. That's true. Absolutely true. I was trying to read some of the comments. Oh, it looks like they're talking amongst themselves, which is cool. If anyone has any comments for Josh, go ahead and do it now. I think we're probably gonna wrap up pretty quick. I gotta get ready for my interview with Graham. So
Yeah, it's awesome, dude. Yeah. Hey, you asked me to see them. I got tickets for Sunday, the May 12th.
they have
He
and
Ron
Ron
Placone are
Placone. It's
coming.
May 11th and 12th,
Yep.
but my tickets are for the 11th.
Yep.
I can't go both
Oh,
days.
okay.
It's kind of a long drive
Yeah,
for me.
I'm just going on the 12th.
Oh, dang. Oh, well. It's all right. We'll
Yeah,
do
it's too
another
bad.
interview. We can
Yeah.
visit that way. So even though we're probably about 45
Sweet.
minutes away from each other, you're in Utah County, right? Utah
No,
County?
I'm in Salt Lake County.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I live in
Yeah.
West Valley.
I'm in Grantsville, Fuller County.
Uh,
Yay. Hey, it's way nice out here. At least it's less populated for now. That's changing really
yeah.
fast, however. But it is. Okay, let's see.
Yeah,
What
I mean,
does Josh think
over the
of
last 10 years, we
Covington
increased
being?
our.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
26% over the last year. Sorry, Pat Hacker had a question. What do you think of the Covington thing?
Like the smirky MAGA hat wearing kid?
Is that what it
Is that
is?
Catholic high school? Is that what that is? So if it's what if that's what it is,
Oh, the
so
school
I'm a
thing?
little mixed. I'm a little mixed on it because, like, I was kind of an asshole when I was like, I wasn't necessarily wearing a MAGA hat, but I was a metalhead goth kid going to school with a bunch of people who thought they were better than me, so they screamed at me. I had a chip on my shoulder. But the idea that Covington kids actually approached the Native American gentleman has just been proven false by
Yeah,
video.
yeah, the
Like he
Native
actually
American
approached them,
actually was stepping in between them
right? And then he wasn't trying to be an asshole. He like that, as I understand, like the rhythm he was playing is meant to soothe the soul.
yeah,
So
but
he's
he was
trying
just
to do good.
confused. That was a
And so
confused
he
face. I have a godson
was
that makes
right,
that
and
exact
so he
face when he doesn't know what to do. It's
yeah,
exactly the same
right? And
face.
what do you do? And so here's a kid who doesn't have a frontal lobe. You know, he's got another 8 years till his frontal lobe is fully developed. And so I'm not gonna justify his actions, but I
Mhm.
do understand that I've been a teen asshole. And I actually find it more disturbing that Kathy Griffin wanted to dox him and was demanding over Twitter that people get his like that's shitty. Like we should allow teenagers to be assholes. We should call them out and say, "Yo, you're a fucking asshole, and please don't do it again." But we need to be able to have a road. And if my teenage self were to predicate who I was for the rest of my life,
Mhm.
that may bum me out.
Me
And so
too.
I
Me too.
think that the Covington situation should help us talk about what is a real road to redemption, and how do
Right.
we get beyond if somebody says something shitty, how do we then
All
fix
right. So
that?
Pat was asking, no, it's the grifter Nathan Phillips, the Indian elder. So what did you think of the Indian elder? I'm not sure. I mean, in a way, I don't know enough. If I was there, I could probably give more perspective. What do you think?
Feel much the same. I definitely reserve judgment. I think that his heart was in the right place. You know, he's there, and he's trying to calm people down.
That's
I
what it
think he
sounds like.
kind of went about it the wrong way because, like, it's really easy for teenage boys that are full of hormones to tap right into the lizard brain, and I don't think that he's necessarily going to help that situation. Um, I don't think that he was necessarily wrong. I just think that he may have gone about it the wrong way if he truly did want to calm them down.
Yeah.
All in all, I think it was I think it was a little blown out of proportion because
Mhm.
we live in a sensationalist social media environment, and yeah, it's kind of shitty.
Okay, one more question, or maybe one more. So, what do you think of, or do you have any view on presidential candidate Andrew Yang?
I haven't looked into him much, but I'm hearing good things, so I want to look into him a little bit more. I like that he's kind of coming out, speaking true, saying that his friends and media really were trying to screw over Bernie. Um, but I need to look into him a little bit more. I don't know much about his platform. I'm actually more excited about Tulsi Gabbard. She's probably one I'm most excited about.
Me too.
Not that I'm not excited about Bernie, but he hasn't officially announced yet,
Right.
and she has. And her anti-war stance and the way that she's just getting smeared for it is impressive, and how stoic she is in that
Yeah,
regard is
she's
also
very
quite impressive.
stoic, and I'm liking what she's saying on climate change now because I didn't know how she felt about that, and I love her anti-war stance. But let's see. Osama says, "See the Yang interview by Joe Rogan." That should help, I guess. And let's see. Osama says, "We're getting ready to ask the city of Charlottesville to divest from fossil fuels and weapons. There's a growing list of endorsing organizations and individuals." That's great, Osama. Good for you. You rock.
Okay, so it
Let's
looks like
see.
as Andrew Yang. You have to check that out.
Yeah, do. Okay. Someone also says Nathan, the Native American gentleman, was there for thousands of years before that privileged white kid. Which I kind of,
I mean, so
I mean, not him personally, but
there's historical context. There's historical context, which is important. But the thing
Mhm.
is like an 18-year-old kid doesn't have the ability, likely doesn't have the ability to think that way. And
Right.
so yeah, again, I think that it was blown out of proportion. I think that that the kid, yeah, he had a shitty smirk, and maybe if he smirked in my face that way, I'd probably want to slap him. I don't know that I would,
Yeah. But I've seen my
but
my godson do that exact same face when he was just completely flat out confused, not meaning to be an asshole, but he was just
legit,
confused.
legit. Like, what do I do in this situation? Yeah, this
Yeah.
guy just approached me and he's beating his drum, and yeah, so I
I
don't
don't
really know,
know. I don't
and
know. I'm not going to judge,
yeah,
because just if I was there, maybe I'd have a different viewpoint, but I wasn't there, so I do think it was something that was blown way
yeah,
out of proportion, and and it wasn't a breaking news story or anything. They really need to make breaking news more on climate change and illegal wars and all that instead of stupid shit like that. I'm sorry. That's just the way I feel.
yeah.
Um,
A lot of my Force Awakens moment actually came from watching Jordan Sheridan's footage on Standing Rock. Like, that blew
oh
my mind,
yeah,
the way that we treat American citizens,
Jordan,
spraying them with water in sub-freezing temperatures, nearly blowing people's arms off
the
and
tear
eyes out.
gas.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with the tear gas, and yeah, just the getting
I was glued to that. I
savaged
was
by
so
dogs.
mad. I was so mad. Yeah, maybe we can talk about that in another interview. I'd really like to get you back on again.
That'd be great.
So, but
Yeah,
I really do have to
yeah, let's do it. That'd
prepare
be
for
fantastic.
my Graham
Yep,
interview.
for Graham.
So,
Well, I appreciate your time. You should, yeah, tell Graham hello. I'm excited to see him in May. I appreciate this opportunity to kind of share my story and talk about our voice. And
yeah,
again, if you want change, like Obama was right about, like, you are the change you're waiting for.
mhm. Yeah, and they're gonna block, and he's gonna block it as much as he can. So, even though he said
Yeah, he will,
that,
but still, right? Still,
it's all
yeah,
words. It's just words, words. But
yeah. You're
anyway,
right. You're right. But it doesn't mean the words aren't true. But you're right. Yeah.
yeah,
All
yeah,
right. Well,
it's
hey,
true.
again, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Hey, thanks for the comments as well, guys. Thanks for
Yeah,
following.
yeah.
Appreciate it.
Let's see if there was anyone new who showed up that I didn't mention because I just like to let people know. Uh, the Zoxix, I can't. You guys have to have names that I can freaking pronounce because Zoxilix. Um, I may have missed this comment. It said the parents of those kids that are being shafted by the system are compared with the successes of the rich kids or anyone doing well because of the propaganda on TV by their parents further underarming, underarming those kids. It continued. Okay, yeah, no, you, he's right. She's right. I don't know. But gosh, thanks you all guys for showing up. That was a happy treat to have y'all come on. I was hoping, but I wasn't expecting it. So thanks, guys. Um, and we will do this again soon. I'm looking forward to doing more interviews. Josh is just my first one, and so hopefully this
Well,
won't be our
honored to be
last.
your first.
Thank you, Josh.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks again so much for your time. I appreciate it.
All right, no problem. Okay, so we will talk to you next time. Stay in touch, and you have a good week.
And may the force be with you.
You too. Peace. You have a good one.